Hi, TJ.
Hey, good to see you guys.
Nice to see you. It's weird. We don't normally get to see people, so yay. Where are you located right now?
Yeah, I'm in LA. I'm
Oh
I'm
God,
uh
that's
little beach town.
so Vic said you had a virtual Thanksgiving and I had one too. So I wanted to ask you like how you guys did it and what it was like because
Huh.
it's new,
Yeah, that's
obviously.
cool. Yeah, I'd like to hear about yours. Hmm, mine was good. It was sort of thrown together. I just organized it and invited a lot of the folks that I don't get to see. I don't have family in California really, so it was all like Michigan and Boston and Texas, Minnesota, a couple thrown
Wow.
in there. The people that are just kind of scattered far and wide that um, I don't think I've gotten a chance to talk to many, if any of them, for like the whole quarantine. Um, so we have, we have a huge Thanksgiving as a tradition in Michigan, or at least we used to, kind of growing up, and so this was cool. I got to see a lot of folks, like 20 plus people came on and
Wow.
staggered them so that it wouldn't be like everybody all in a 10-minute window. And It worked out. I was on for like 3 hours and
Wow.
I ended up just kind of having, I think I had like two gaps of about a minute and otherwise there were people on, through the whole time. But so how was yours, Chelsea? What did you do on
Well, honestly,
Thanksgiving?
that's some of the best part is I only had food, like the food I really wanted to eat.
Yeah.
And so like we decided like I'm not cooking a turkey.
Huh.
Um, I've only tried it once. I cooked it for like an hour and the outside was charred and the inside was raw. So I'm never in charge of the turkey. So we got like a honey baked ham because my family traditionally does turkey and we like my household likes ham. So we're like, well, we're the only ones eating it. I don't have to clean my house for you. I ate it in sweatpants, which I think Thanksgiving should always be done in because you need some elastic.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, we did like a Zoom call. Ours was a little bit more structured. My sister and her boyfriend live in a different household, and my parents live in a different household. So there was like a meetup time in my parents' driveway where everyone like passed out food, whatever they prepared, swapped it to the other households, and then left. And then a Zoom call a couple hours later.
Excellent.
And we tried playing some like Zoom games, like where you had to like go find something in your house and bring it back, and whoever got
Yeah.
back to the Zoom first wins, or things like that, which was fun. But yeah, that human interaction is so important. So I'm sure that probably filled your cup for the day, having all those people you don't normally get to talk to
Yeah, for sure. I mean,
in person, air
yeah,
quotes.
these days I haven't been home back in Michigan for a while for Thanksgiving or Christmas, but these days or in the last say 10 years, it wouldn't have been this many people that I would have gotten to see in person anyway. They're just too far scattered and have their own families and everything, lucky if I see like whatever 10 people, in just a couple of days
Yeah.
maybe. And so yeah, this really was kind of cool in that way. But I miss the home cooking though, man. I gotta
Oh
I gotta
yeah.
tell you, like I know my way around a kitchen, sort of. Like I don't know, I don't like I survive, but but nowhere near. There are like gourmet, chefs basically in my family.
Okay, so I asked Vic right before you got on, but I have to ask you because it's one of my favorite Thanksgiving questions. Your favorite Thanksgiving food? And yes, I'm judging you on your answer.
Easy macaroni and cheese.
Ah, okay, that one's fine. That one's
That's
fine.
that's
If,
Right.
not
those,
a
if you're one of
That
those
was our
cranberry
runner up.
kids, I'm just
all right.
kidding.
There's
Yeah,
We were
yeah,
stuffing's
saying
the number
stuffing.
one.
that
Stuffing
was
for sure.
Yep,
yeah, that was the highlight. The mac and cheese
awesome.
this year for me. So that was like my centerpiece. Didn't
Okay,
have a
fair.
turkey. I'm not gonna make a turkey for one dude.
No, but mac and cheese is an acceptable answer, so this podcast can continue. Awesome.
All right.
I think our viewers would love to kind of hear what that origin story is and really how it shapes you today. And we're already getting a glimpse in terms of what that mindset and personality is that you are today that was shaped from so many years back. So I'm going to go ahead and just let you share your story. And
I'm gonna tell you the brief version, and I guess you put it like I do, which is kind of the origin story. This is the first time, and I say first because there have been instances since in a different way, but it was the first time that my life was essentially completely shaken up. And I love this phrase by one of my teachers, Vishen, used it, and I don't know where he got it, but I'll attribute it to him. Is the phrase is this beautiful destruction, and at that time it came in the form of a near-death experience. So I was on a school trip, high school trip. So I was 15 years old, and this took us from Michigan to Tennessee to the Smoky Mountains. And it was in the springtime in March, so it was not expected that there was going to be such a storm, but we ended up encountering a huge snowstorm, and essentially got lost in this outward bound kind of camping expedition for a few days in just this sub-zero snowstorm, just blizzard of the century, I think they called it. So this was, this was just kind of this incredible spiritual kind of out-of-body experience that I think could be the entire podcast just talking about that. So to sum it up, though, a lot of folks that have had near-death experiences describe a series of, anywhere from 9 to 12 sort of steps or different features of it, and leaving the body and having sort of messages and hearing voices and things like that. We're all part of it, but really just what the major story, the real action out of that was that it was such a shakeup in my life that that's when I really started to be able to kind of be a real person and be an adult, and just shake off like all of the things of sort of boyhood, and essentially start looking at things from the real perspective that I was going to become, from the person that I was really actually meant to be, and that I really could start to become, I think, at that point. So it was a really incredible formative experience, and you can imagine that young, I didn't really cope with it. I didn't know how to deal with it very well, especially just in terms of the spiritual kind of awakening that had happened. That shift was so inexplicable, that it's taken me years, decades to unwind it. And so, as I still unpack some of the lessons and some of the things that have come about kind of stemming from that.
I've got questions already. I'm so curious. So I love that you were like touching on how some people experience like different pieces or like numbers of things. I would love to know like what that looked like for you specifically. Like, was there a white light, or did you have an out of body experience or messages, or like think of what had happened in your life? Like, I'm so curious, like what that felt like for you, especially at 15 years old, going through that. Like,
going back there, I don't tell the story in like super fine detail very much, because actually there's a phenomenon that memories degrade, the more that you like talk about them, and these near-death experiences are so elusive and just kind of escape description that it's already kind of hard enough to put into words and to try to describe it. So but what I can tell you is that so much has been written. I wanted to write about it as well, but actually so much has been written about the subject, and I've learned a ton since just reading some of those seminal kind of works. But what I guess, out of these, what's kind of known as these 12 stages, I can kind of take you through how I experienced it, just in terms of how it would be described, by the kind of original research, is sort of encapsulating what it is. So these, I won't like name them all exactly. I don't even know if I could remember, but basically what had happened was most people experience this in a hospital, right? They're like in a coma or in surgery or anesthetized, something where they're in a very controlled environment. And so the stories that come out of it have a lot of times been, there's been skeptics or people have tried to, describe it based on, because, people have these similar experiences physically while they're in the hospital. But what's interesting is that mine happened purely in nature, which is actually one of the rare times where there was nothing, there was nobody monitoring me. There was sort of none of those trappings of the research that's been done on it for the most part. So, but what's really interesting is that my experience maps to that almost identically. And I didn't know about the experience or the experiments, sorry, or that research for probably 20 years after it happened. So, I mean, it was nothing, there was no prior influence or knowledge of this, obviously, at 15. But we were on this outward bound trip, and so we were essentially the mode, the way that I died. I always say I froze to death on a mountain. Like I
Oh my gosh.
really legitimately kind of I had hypothermia, and my core body temperature had dropped to a point where functioning was really, really difficult, doing basic things, and I was sort of hallucinating and was undergoing some of those physical like impairments. I was almost completely numb and could barely move at this point after like 3 days in this terrible blizzard. And so I was one of the worst off. I was unfortunately, I was only, I would say maybe fourth or so worst out of the group of us. So there were several others that had it much worse. But I think that the way that I started to experience this was I started to just take a rest, and I thought that I was just going to sit and rest, with my pack on. At least what was left of it. I think that people had taken some of the heavier things off of it, or they had just sort of fallen off, or whatever had happened. But I just kind of leaned back into a snowbank. There was 5 feet of snow, 5 to 8 feet of snow everywhere. So we were legitimately just up, to our eyeballs in it. And so I just kind of leaned over, which is how you could take a rest in that kind of snow. And I just kind of settled back and looked up, and my friend ended up leaning kind of back to back. And then I think that it felt like he got up, but I think that it was me kind of leaving my body and getting up.
Oh, wow.
Where I just didn't feel anything anymore. And I just started rising. So there was this ascendancy to kind of this whiteness, but there were voices, and there were definitely these there were dead and living people, relatives and other people that I saw and heard. And I was upset for a long time after, because
I mean, understandably so.
Well, no, because as I started to read about this, and having people report that they had this sort of real kind of face-to-face with God, what they call a samadhi. And it's, I didn't get that. I didn't see anything where I thought, this is the supreme being, this is God, but there was that sense of being in that place. And with people that I knew were dead for sure, that were showing up and saying things and talking, and as well as sort of unrecognizable voice kind of in my head, that like a voice that was without speaking. And then, at some point I ended up kind of feeling like I was having a dream and hallucinating again, and then feeling back into my body as I was getting dragged to a helicopter that was airlifting us out of there. And all I knew was that I was holding on to a search and rescue person, a guy that had come down on the harness. They couldn't even land the helicopter. It was too like snowy, whatever it was. And so they just kind of, the feeling of being lifted up in that harness was interesting, because it was like this round 2 immediately of this physical manifestation of what I had just felt in my body, in my body, I guess, or out of my body, maybe 30 minutes or so before that. So really, really interesting to kind of see that with waking eyes, where I was rising up into the sky and kind of replaying that in my head and trying to make sense of what was happening. But then there was a lot of commotion and a lot of sort of the rest of the people getting on board and getting to the hospital and that kind of thing after that. So, that experience kind of, or that part of it ended there.
So you said that you didn't do any research about like kind of those pieces for like almost 20 years. So what changed in your life, or like what made you decide, like, I want to know more about it, or I want to validate? Like, what was that thing that was your tipping point where 20 years later you're now looking into it?
Well, it was, I mean, I had come across some of the work on it, but more to the point, I think it was just that I had come to grips uh, with that experience, I guess, after some time of not exactly repressing it, but just not really, not really wanting to unpack it all and sort of deal with the spirituality aspect of it. I had gotten over the physical stuff, luckily, got all my fingers and toes um, and I mean, I say that like a little lightly, but knowing that not everyone in our group was so lucky. So that's, a real blessing for sure. But, with all my faculties and everything kind of healed up, I put that away. And I told the story so many times to anybody from friends, family, reporters, school people, all kinds of, just everyone that wanted to hear this story, then. So yeah, I guess I just kind of burnt out on it and put it aside. But I guess to answer your question, Chelsea, yeah, the kind of impetus was getting into a yogic lifestyle and studying more than just the physical yoga postures, and really getting into the spiritual philosophy of it. And just kind of knowing that I had come so close to this experience that's so coveted and that's so like elusive. I mean, 1 in a million, that happens, and just seeing it as the gift it is, and how that really unlocked my healing ability, I think, in those years, several years back after I moved to California, actually. So it was a interesting confluence of things. I guess there wasn't like a specific, light switch moment, but I think that studying yoga and really finding the spiritual teacher that I still have was a big part of that, and really diving into all that I could learn, and all those amazing gifts that experience has to give.
I love that you call it a gift, because I know most people would think near-death experiences, like, why are you grateful for that, or why are you calling it a positive thing? But we've had other people on the podcast who have gotten thrown overboard and been stuck under boats and don't know how to swim, and like other near-death experiences, and they come out of it almost like more full of life and like appreciative, and they also see it as a gift. And so it's interesting that that you use that word in like referral to it, because it makes you value life so much more when you almost get it taken away. So
Yeah.
And there's definitely that level of gratitude. But one thing I am curious about is, as people go through healing, especially dealing with something so traumatic, the science behind it is we do suppress those memories to protect us, to protect the brain process and all of that. So do you feel like as you were healing over time, do you feel like more memories in vivid detail started coming up? They started surfacing? Or, did you always have those memories and you just purposely decided like, hey, I've told this story so many times, I'm just going to put them away?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think that, it's the memories were always there, obviously, right? That's got a permanent imprint on anybody's brain, when you go through that. So obviously they were there. I do think that I did just put it away as far as all the details, the story. I've always said it would make a great book or a great movie, just in terms of the surrounding story as well, the whole week, the whole trip. But it really, yeah, when it comes down to it, I think, yeah, the memories are there, and it's more that I can recognize a lesson, or I can trace something back now to those roots. Now that my awareness, when you can turn that awareness inward and really look at life kind of with some hindsight and perspective, then you get those moments where, I find myself kind of learning a lesson, or feeling like something that I should have learned before, or whatever it is. And that's what it is that, wow, like that ultimately came from that experience as well. And not the physical trauma, not the even the immediate afterwards, but the results of me taking the messages that I received during the experience and shaping my life in a different way after that. That's what I think has this lasting root. And we definitely talk about that in the yoga world, where you've really got to trace your roots as deep as you can to be able to grow as tall as you can. And so that is something that that I don't find that I remember something specific, but it's more that I connect to something specific, that this was the lesson back then, and now I finally got it, and that's definitely happened multiple times.
Did you originally seek out yoga as part of the healing process, or was it just something like, hey, I'm going to try yoga, and then all of a sudden you found the beauty in it?
There's I think, I don't know if when we talked the other day, maybe we had mentioned this, but I totally found yoga from a jock perspective. Like I found it was literally just to heal physical injuries, just trauma from high impact sports and stuff. So at that point, when I started doing yoga, it was just, doing yoga. It was the asana practice and doing the third step out of 8, on the yoga path. So it's only that one little isolated thing that I started with, but that's how yoga gets you. You start with sort of that's the most accessible point. And as you get, I think as I got more into that and wanting to deepen just the postures and the physical practice, I then went into breath work, and breath work is another one of those paths, the Ashtanga, the 8-limbed path of yoga. So, and then breath leads you to like mantras and chanting, and then that leads you to meditation and looking inward, and all these doors just kind of open. And there's so many parallels to that in life and in our bodies and in the universe, that sort of things open on this ascendant path. So I just feel lucky that I found yoga when I did, and that that just in general, because of the experience that I had, one of the things that the near-death experience taught me was to kind of say yes, and to be open-minded, and to dive into things, because that was just something I just felt like I never did as a kid and a teenager, sort of a more sheltered kid. So it was just something that I dove into, and I suspended disbelief a little bit, and I put away the frou-frou stuff at the beginning, and I just did the postures, and then then eventually it just it seeped in, I guess, through some kind of crazy Vedic osmosis or something that you just you start to really like to really hear the words that the teachers are saying outside of step here and stand on your hands. So so it's a really like I say, I think just a fortunate path, but also one that I could again see now looking backwards was like, oh, that's kind of meant to be. I was sort of pushed in that direction, and opened my mind and spirit to what it had to teach, and it just made complete sense. And it finally, at some point, rectified that disconnect between me and the material world and religion and spirituality, and it seemed like everything actually had a legitimate reconciliation and explanation, at last. And I said, well, yeah, this is pretty amazing. It's been around for 5,000 or 6,000 years, and I'm just kind of learning about it. So
yeah, there's definitely some credibility there. If you believe in like a more like Eastern medicine mindset, I think you're more inclined to like find value in it than like our Western medicine, which is just like, they put a Band-Aid on it and give you pills for everything instead of like finding why and coming to the root of things. But I know I have used yoga breathing to help with some pain management before, and found a lot of value in it, and have definitely conveyed that to people, that like it's not all like crazy Orange County ladies talking about it. Like there actually is like real value there, because it really does help. So there's definitely a lot of credibility, and like you said, if it's been around that long, there's probably good reason. So you
Yeah.
had mentioned that this has helped you like say yes to more things and be more open-minded. What have you said yes to now since like having this mind shift?
Besides the podcast.
I mean, yeah, so that's a good start. Yeah.
There's no, so much. I mean, I've done so much with my life. It's been a pretty good ride so far. And I think that just a lot of that is that, given the environment I grew up in and the way that it was, it was very like Catholic, kind of repressive upbringing, just around really anything, again, very sheltered. But kind of breaking out of that and looking at some of the experiences that I've been able to have. Like I've been skydiving and bungee jumping and all kinds of different adventuring. I have been to, a travel around most of the United States and to several countries and seen a couple of the natural wonders of the world. And, just really like, I don't know. I think bucket list has come along in our lifetime as a phrase, but at some point I realized that, yeah, I wanted to just, to do stuff. I wanted to get the most out of life. That just kind of seems like that's the point. And like I said, I guess that's really what I felt like I was missing in my life was that, as kind of a shy and sheltered kid, that, I was good at some things and I was a bright kid, but, not given the real, I don't know, the kind of wings, I guess, to just do and try, the things that just seemed interesting. And I don't think that I would have gotten into yoga at all. I don't think that I would have gotten into what got me into yoga, which eventually, ended up being some sports and some things that I played tennis competitively and stuff like that. So all those things, I wouldn't have entered a tennis competition, not having played on an organized team, if I didn't take that outlook and just say that, yeah, F it. I don't know if we can swear, but I'll try it, like I just like I entered and, I won the first one that I entered and it was just like one of those, crazy things. So honestly, from that point on, I mean, from like high school, college days, when I really started integrating those lessons, to this day, I think I do just kind of, I take calculated risks, let's put it that way. And it's not just the risks or things like that, but it's just about, about being really open and present, to the people and the situation that I'm in. So, it helps pass the time.
Are you currently teaching yoga?
Currently with COVID, I'm really not. I had yoga and healing clients and a couple of classes and workshops that I was doing prior to, so earlier this year. But it's essentially just kind of shut that down. And it's very possible. And that was when we were talking the other day, Vic. I think I maybe failed to mention, but I would love to. Maybe we'll just do it on another episode. But
right?
I'd love to talk to you and do a healing with you guys and maybe with your viewers online, because what I've realized is definitely that it can be done. And so many of wonderful healers, and I've had sessions with great healers online that have done amazing work with me and taught me some great new methods. So that
we would be totally open to it.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I know Chelsea would. I would.
Can we add 2020 to our Zoom call, because it needs a lot of healing also?
Right?
Like, how do we get them incorporated in there?
I think we just need to tie it to a tree and do what we need to. I think that's what we need to do to 2020.
The more that we're chatting right now, I think there's just that healing energy around you. I don't know if it's the soothing voice. You make me want to go take up yoga, and I don't do yoga. I barely like bend over and touch my toes. Yoga, I just have never gotten into. At the end of this podcast, I might actually want to try it now.
It's harder than it looks. Everyone thinks it's just like very relaxing and hang. I'm like, no, it's a full workout. I'm like legit sweating sometimes, like head to toe sweating on. It's a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, it's whatever you want it to be, honestly. On the physical side, I have seen Olympians that can't do some of the things that seasoned yogis can do, and it's just it's kind of amazing. So there are practices and postures and just things that are accessible to to literally everyone. In fact, I got to do a really advanced teacher training, one of the only times that I've been in a yoga studio this year, since March. But that was with one of my idols and master instructor, Krista Cahill. She is a master at getting people to access a pose, no matter how like hard the pose seemingly is. Whether it's like handstand or headstand, or whether and however easy it is, she finds a way to challenge you. So there's just sort of this this way of being challenged when you're in like a child's pose, just like a fetal position or something similar. And then again, there's ways that you can be almost completely immobile and do things like a modified shoulder stand or something. And so it's just, I think, an incredible kind of universe within this practice that we kind of call yoga. So
my favorite's Happy Baby. At the very, like, when we're wrapping up, I really enjoy Happy Baby.
It's great.
It's like,
just opens.
Yeah, you just kind of rock back and forth, and you just like, you feel like you're giving yourself a hug almost, and just, yeah.
I've done that one, Chelsea.
Yeah, and then you're done because it's at the end too. So you're like, yes, I made it.
I was just gonna say that Happy Baby is a Western invention. That's not the
name. Of course
it
is.
It's the name it's dead bug pose. And it just doesn't sound so appealing to do that at the end of a class. So
no,
but really dead bug pose is just kind of sitting still, and Happy Baby, you're rocking.
You rock a little, yeah.
It's this, I love it because it's a Western modification on an ancient Eastern, yoga position. I love those actually, because that's kind of that's my thing, is integrating East and West and finding ways to make it really work for your body and your lifestyle. So yeah, it's yoga's amazing, Vic. You gotta try it.
It speaks volumes, though. I mean, you said Happy Baby, and Americans, we can't sit still, so that's why we're rocking.
Why it's perfect, yeah.
Right, and then that whole Eastern mindset is like, what'd you say, dead bug?
Yeah.
I mean, look at that. Like your mind is still quiet. I mean, it's totally interesting stuff. I mean, I'm 100%. Let's put this healing session onto the calendar.
It's interesting because, like, when you were talking about like what he makes you feel like in his vibe, on my little notes here, I had written down like centered. I felt like the vibe you kind of give off, for like, if everyone's listening and not watching, is like you do seem to have like an innate sense of self, and you know who you are, and you're comfortable like expressing it and coming out of it, but always like kind of coming back to your center. Like even like your calculated risk, like I'm willing to come away from it and then I come back. Like that was kind of the word I had written down for how I could like see you. So I guess for anyone who's listening and not watching, that's kind of like what I see. But yeah, it seems like you've done a lot of discovery from past trauma and learning what that means for you and living through it to like really find your sense of self, which is really cool, because then you get to just like live this really like purposeful life now and just have a good time.
Yeah, I'd love to pick your brain about your experiences. So as part of my personal development and personal growth, I've learned to embrace what is called an experience list. And I've learned how to start journaling the emotions, the feelings, the senses that are around what you want to experience, and how you can manifest that, and then obviously bring that into existence by completing that experience. And so I'm just curious, like some of the experiences you've had, what are some of the emotions or feelings that some of those experiences do you think have brought you into your life that you kind of hold on to today? I know for me personally, like when I get to travel somewhere, we get to experience something, I walk away with so much more gratitude around it, and I feel more centered. And so I'm just curious, from someone who already is centered, kind of what some of those emotions or feelings are around the experiences.
Yeah, it's a good question. This is like we could talk this whole podcast as well about kind of value elicitation, and what I think that that I get out of an experience is a connectedness, and I say this from the standpoint of the true crunchy hippie that I guess I am inside, that I really, connectedness with everything, right? With like a lot of, when I look back to the experiences that I truly, really value and remember, like with in the best of times, and with the most positive emotion attached. It's the positive emotion is a connection. It's the people that I was with, the connection to nature or to history. Like, you guys ever think about where you're sitting right now? Where is it? Orange County, right? Something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Is it Orange? I forget the city. I'm sorry, but it's anyway. So, but if you think of right where you're sitting now, like what happened there 1,000 years ago, right in
I
your
love that.
right, and like what happened there like 10 million years ago? Was there like a dinosaur stomping around? Was it under an ocean? Was it where? So the bit of connection that you get in a small sense from seeing a temple that's 1,500 years old, or like a tree that's 3,000 years old, or something like that, it just kind of boggles my mind, and I allow it to awe me, and I think that I just like soak in that experience so much, and I feel so connected to that place and that sort of that little spot in the universe that it's just, yeah, that's kind of the feeling, it's just this kind of touch of enlightenment, or touch of whatever you want to call that word, nirvana, or connection, or higher
Sure.
consciousness or something, and it's like, okay, I got like a tiny taste of that, what I think I experienced many years ago.
Yeah, I think reverence is a lost virtue.
Yeah.
I think just the world that we live in right now is so busy,
Okay.
either with technology or the to-do list of being productive at work. And I think we lose sense of that reverence when we get to be in a position to experience it. And I think that's one of the things experiences does for a lot of us, but we don't take the time to kind of revel in that gratitude and that reverence and that connectedness. And so I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
I think like all of the stuff with COVID is like the perfect time to cross things off your experience list, because it's kind of forcing us to slow down, and it's giving us more time to be present and to actually experience those things, because so many other things are limited now that a lot of us at home have nothing but time. So it's like, this is the best time to find whatever that thing is on your experience list that you can accomplish. Like for Vic, it was this traveling that he just recently did, or maybe for someone else, it's learning to do a headstand, or all these other things, but it gives you the time to do it and to be engaged and like present and appreciative of it, big or small, which is kind of like, I'm trying to find the positives out of this year recently, especially around Thanksgiving, and talking about what you're grateful for and taking the time to be thankful for those kinds of things. But yeah, now's the best time, I think, because we have more of it. So
It's well, it's great because everybody is kind of, coming to the table now, right? It's a bit of a forced awakening, not the Star Wars movie. I mean, a forced awakening.
right.
So the way that it's made people, I think, it's not about necessarily being spiritual, but taking up a hobby, picking up the guitar in the corner, or doing whatever, because you feel that abundance of time. I've had this inner work around time, actually, relatively recently too, with a great coach, and that was really kind of eye-opening to the fact that, like, I just live in this abundance of time now, all the time. Like, I think busy is like a 4-letter word, so it's just there's a lot going on, but there's a lot of mindset shifts that I think have come about that really make me see it as just I have like a crazy abundance of time. I have nothing but time, and so it's kind of it's a really cool perspective, and yeah, I like the fact, though, that, like I said, that people are all kind of, well, not all, but I think that a lot more people are embracing this time for that. And and I mean, my yoga training was great. I've done a couple things myself, not as much as I should, but we also have to learn to kind of be easy on ourselves and forgive, and not feel like we have to be busy or have to be doing something, quote, productive.
Yeah, you have to give yourself that grace. whether it's that second helping of pie at Thanksgiving, because it's making your heart happy, or yeah, whatever it might be. I think we've almost brought that up almost every podcast since the COVID stuff has started, about giving yourself permission, or giving yourself grace, and like not making excuses for not doing anything or not getting as far as you thought. Like that's okay, as long as you continue along whatever path was like right for you. You shouldn't feel guilty about it. But yeah, I think that's been an underlying trend in almost all of these, is like giving yourself some grace here.
Yeah, I mean, no need to reinvent the wheel. You know, I know it may sound cliche, but yeah, if whether people are listening for, you know, the first time or the, you know, 50th time, or whether it's just hearing you guys or a number of other people saying the same thing, I mean, we do need to hear it. Where people are harder, you know, we're harder on ourselves than anyone else is. So you know, it's definitely just it's a good message to share. It's a good thing to keep in mind.
Well, you've brought a lot of light to today's conversation. We can't thank you enough for being open and transparent about your story. I know that you obviously went through a lot as a child going through it, and us obviously asking you to relive it, you know, could be hard. But I think at the end of the day, you're in such a good, centered just mindset and lifestyle. And I know you've inspired me and probably Chelsea to take up yoga. And we are going to take you up on that healing session. I think that's something that we can learn a lot from, and just gives us another reason to connect with you. So
let's do it, brother.
I'm writing notes for our next session with you, because I'm already
Right.
really excited about that. So I was just jotting a couple of things down while it was fresh in my mind, so I don't forget them for our next time. But no, I just I thank you for being transparent with your story, and I know I pushed you along the way to like give us more information. And for anyone watching, I kept getting closer to my camera because I was like really interested in that. I find that really fascinating. So thank you for letting me like unwrap a little bit more of that. But yeah, I appreciate you being vulnerable with us. Definitely.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It was really great talking to you guys. Hey, I really appreciate you guys. Thank you again.
Yeah, thank you.
Awesome. Well, have an amazing night, TJ, and we'll stay in contact with you.
All right.
Bye. Thank you so
Good
much.
night.
Yeah.